Good morning, or good day, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. Welcome back to East Asia International Management. Today, we will review part of what we've learned because we're basically at the midterm time now. And I will be asking some students to try to present their material so far to practice with the classmates so that they sound convincingly like specialists, so that when you are going to survey some of the, as we said, I'll just show you here in that picture, you guys can all see the circle with the green check mark. You are doing lots of class work, and I'd like you to try to realize this wise work, the big game of life, and try interacting, developing your Guanxi, developing your Sun Tzu Art of War, so you can work with a local target company, perhaps as an internship, but at the same time work with some other huge multinational company, maybe getting paid for classwork, to hire people not only to help you do your paper, but hire people as specialists to guide you and guide the company with somebody else's money. That whole concept of using somebody else's money to help that company should make the company fall in love with you, right? And get you some internship, which can get you some sort of job. And overall, you're focused on developing a paper for class. That paper could be published in a student newspaper or a student journal or an international journal that helps you moving forward. So that's what we're focused on. There's lots of questions about how to do that. I will back up and show you a few other files. You guys should be aware of this file. Do you guys, has anybody in class read this yet? Asian Management in the 21st Century. It's one of the first ones I was talking about in class. And to give you a hint, I'll flash through it, talking about Europeans and Asians and how management was started and first discussed. And everything is being done through this journal, Asia Pacific Journal of Management, which is discussed in this research paper. And it's actually the, oops, somebody else is trying to get in. It's the actual name of this journal, also Asia Pacific Journal of Management. So the more you talk about the journal, the more the journal gets famous. And what I can show you, the differences in management between countries, they quoted one book, which is here, The Dream of the Red Chamber. It was actually created in 1760s. And here's a quote from that, talking about how Chinese, very valuable people or powerful people or emperors or lords or kings, for example, they had challenges motivating people. And then the same thing, not just with 1980s Deng Xiaoping. Then we get into Tolstoy's book that was written in the 1800s. And they quoted him here saying how in Russia they managed people. So there's two quotes about how to manage people. Both are very, very interesting. Then we have this first table. This first table goes through, and after this individual quotes good research or two textbooks, two books, he surveyed people. And you can see here that this is based on research by Hofstede, 2002, and he added more details later, but generally, I believe, I could be wrong, but in 2002, Hofstede was a visiting professor at a small MBA school in Hong Kong, and he had about 25 students, and surprise, surprise, there's about 4 or 5 students from USA, 4 or 5 students from Denmark, 4 or 5 students from India, 4 or 5 students from China, and that is his survey. His survey is just interviewing people and identifying how people in USA care about management and what is least important for people from USA about management. Same thing. What is important for Denmark people? What is least important for Danish people? What's most important in India? Least important India. Most important China. Least important. and we see things like personal wealth here is the lowest for Chinese and the lowest for Denmark, but it's very high up in India and even higher up in USA. So it's showing that each country, businessmen may be doing the same business, but how they manage business is very different. And simply, it's you have proved things through a reference of reliable materials. Oh, got to go back here. And then again, here is the books. Yes, here is the Chinese book he references. And later on, somewhere, I just lost where it was, but in, yes, Tolstoy's book. Yes, this one here, Tolstoy's book in Russia, they have a different sense of management. And so hopefully you guys can develop a paper very well and very easily if we're doing wise work. And again, the whole concept is trying to focus on wise work. The idea of don't just study inside a class and study a textbook and study articles, but do wise work where you're interacting with people around you. So based on this, another quiz, if you write this paper, for example, Pia, if you write this paper, you can see this paper, right? Asian Management 21st Century, it's written for this journal and it's written by this guy, referencing basically 2 books and serving one group of people. Do you have any other comments, Pia, on what else could be done to be considered wise work?
To be published in this kind of paper. Maybe I
Sure.
could reference a lot of people that are working for this paper or that are very popular in this paper, so that they see that I'm basically referencing them to get published.
So you're writing a paper about Santa Claus, and then you reference Santa Claus? Is that what you're saying? And you reference Santa Claus as elves that talk about Santa Claus? Is that what you're talking about? Or were you talking about you reference this journal?
Yeah, I reference the journal and the people who frequently write for the journal to basically say that I respect their work and that I find it very good.
Good. So what's the name of this journal again? Asia Pacific Journal of Management.
Yeah.
Asia Pacific Journal of Management. We skip one, then we go up to the next Asia Pacific Journal of Management. We got a different journal also in addition to that, and then we go back down to Asia Pacific Journal of Management. So what you're talking about, you can see it's happening quite a bit, right? I don't know how many, 10 to 14 different references from this journal. Every time Google sees reference to a journal, that journal becomes more famous. So if this article referenced that journal 10 times, it makes the journal in some ways 10 points more powerful. Great. Very smart thing to do. If any of you want to seriously get published, if any of you want, especially to go to graduate school, like a master's program, a PhD program, that's very smart to do. What else? How about Yasser and UNO? Could I ask both of you, can you think of something even better to help you and your career? Sun Tzu, Art of War, what are some tricks that you might have learned that might make your work more effective? So don't just do the work and write it based on reading one textbook and give it to the professor, and then the professor gives you a grade and your paper goes in the garbage. What is something else that can make you even more effective, your work even wiser? So what Pia said is you do the work, you talk about something, and then you publish it. And you don't just try to publish it anywhere, you try to publish it in a good journal. And one way to help make sure they will accept you is if you reference this journal a lot. Good, perfect, that's very, very smart. What is another trick to make you a better manager, a more famous manager in China, Korea, Japan, or anywhere in the world?
Well, you also said that we can reference ourselves.
Okay, any comments? Would you like to keep talking about that?
That it will basically just make us more known. So yeah, I don't know.
You do see on my screen, right? This is all referencing Hofstede, Hofstede, and we keep going down, and there's many references to himself. Here is one from 1984, 1999, 2001, 2004, 2007, 1988. So, yes, that idea, the more you are referenced, Google will see that. And so each time you reference, you basically get some points. If you reference yourself 10 times, you get 10 more points in Google. You reference yourself 20 times, you get 20 more points. That type of thing is also really, really smart. You don't see this done very often. Obviously, it has to relate to the topic. It can't be off topic. I work with I work with publishing, period. Almost all good professors do. But as you guys know, some of the world's best Scopus journals that are supposed to be very highly respected, and we talk about that here. Some of these, not these journals, but some journals that are Scopus, I've actually been surprised. I'm not going to tell you which ones, but that journal is supposed to have a system where you write a paper and your name is separate from your paper. So when you hand it in to the editor, the manager of the journal, that manager cuts your name off and sends your blank paper just with your writing facts, not your name, to 2 other international experts to review it. And then it comes back and there's no prejudice. You don't have any friends giving you help. They don't know who wrote it. But I have found many times in our publications recently that the editor of the journal is actually doing some of the referencing, and he's telling the writers that are trying to publish, I will publish you if you reference me 10 times. I'm not saying Sean Watts. I'm saying the editor says, reference that editor many times, and then you will get published in that Scopus journal. But at the same time, that editor becomes even more famous. That is unethical. Make sure you're clear about that. I'm from North America, and I think in Europe it would be the same thing. Many people would say that's very unethical. You shouldn't do that. You should avoid it. Many journals that are associated with that would very quickly be listed as a blacklisted journal. It means they're an outcast, they're a bad journal. However, we talked earlier about networking and Guanxi, and how in some countries they say paying for things to get done is not ethical. But in other countries, it's a standard of business. It's a daily practice. If you want something done, you pay a person to do it, even though he has a job that's paying him to do it. In some countries, people are paid so low, they require an extra income. And so you may want to think about that. If you're working in Korea, working in Japan, working in Korea, in China, sometimes that extra fee helps. For example, in Vietnam, it's called coffee money. You may want to give money to the police or the journal editors, coffee money or a present money or a Chuseok money or Thanksgiving money or Christmas money. And having that increases your relationship with them, just as respect out of relationships, but then they will remember you. And when you submit something later, you will get fast tracked versus, well, other people take maybe years. That's not just in developing countries. I come from Canada. It happens in Canada sometimes, not always. It's very shunned. It's very bad in Canada, but it does happen. You may be aware of Donald Trump. Donald Trump used to be one of the most powerful men in the world, the American president, and he had hotels. And although you know his hotels, do any of you know that right next to the government offices in Washington, D.C., United States, there was a Trump hotel? That Trump hotel had many, many millions of dollars given to it by other countries while Donald Trump was president. And I can't say for sure, but I would expect that those countries giving millions of dollars to develop this hotel would expect the president to be kind to them. And so Donald Trump has been recorded saying that he got over $150 million in profit from that hotel. where at the same time he filed taxes and his tax return shows that he lost $70 million on the hotel, even though he personally made $150 million. Other countries say they gave millions of dollars, and then he's recording a loss. Be aware that that's not what you're supposed to do in North America, but it obviously does happen there. And so it's not just the China thing. It's not just a Vietnam or a Mexico or South America thing, an Africa thing. It happens almost everywhere around the world. Be aware of it. I'm not encouraging you to do it. I'm just making sure that you guys are aware of it. So when we do our class activities, when you do the class activities, focus on that Sun Tzu concept. Focus on the Guanxi. And it's not just that Guanxi, it's immediate Guanxi with a local company you want to work for. It's also other people around you, like in grants, and publishers around you. Even newspaper journalists are related to this because their job is to create interesting story. If you give them that interesting story, which is your paper, and teach the world something new, then that's doing the job for them. They can sit back and relax. If you can show that you have a lot of valuable information, that also should be valuable to a journalist or to an executive or to a company. So when you see most people in the world lining up to do something or lining up to get a job, hopefully you can think of that Sun Tzu and the Guanxi and how Asian management may play a role to get you to the head of the line. You don't have to wait in line for a job. You can make your own job. Does that make sense, Jung-Moon?
Yes, it is.
What do you think? Is that ethical? Is it bad? Will you be the person that's just waiting to graduate? After you graduate, then you apply to get a job? Are there any other ways that you are thinking of developing yourself so that you can get a job sooner or better than just having a degree?
Well, in terms of our projects we're doing, whenever we try to do some survey or whenever we try to find some information about a certain company, it will be better if we reach the company that we want to work for in the future so that we can have some good Guanxi relationship with the company that we want to work with.
Absolutely. Yes. Make sure you're aware of that. And that whole concept of the what we were talking about, does this help your story? What is this saying related to your story? You see what I'm showing on my screen?
Basically that Samsung company is basically related to all different kinds of industries in South Korea because family members of the Samsung, they are also in other industries such as like Daesung or Donga, which is a press company, so that they can talk good about the Samsung company.
Right. But then we have the idea that with where is the Samsung guy? Lee Byung-chul, he started this in 1938. So if he's gone now, does that change things now? Should we be changing things today because times have changed? 2021, 2022 is very different than 1938. Does that art of war and does the Guanxi still play an effect today?
I think it is, yes. Well, I kind of felt a real example from my experience because
great. Please share that, but be careful. Don't say anything bad about anybody because this is going to go on the internet. I don't want you to go to jail for defamation, but please share the stories.
Well, I was in the English Academy, and one of the students was the member of Samsung. He was the daughter of the executive of Samsung companies. So he had a certain specific credit card. So with that, we could enter the
Anywhere, anything. do
California
anything.
beach. It was all free for like 10 of us. So
Yeah.
it's good to have good Guanxi network.
Yes. And what you were just saying, you went back and forth from talking about Samsung Electronics to talking about Samsung. Don't forget, a lot of people don't know details. A lot of people, like Trump supporters, may be easily confused and led to believe things that might not be true. Samsung is not the same thing as Samsung Electronics, right? The Samsung group controls many things, and Samsung Electronics is just one of many parts of the Samsung group. And so when people are saying the biggest company in the world is Apple and Samsung so much smaller, they're forgetting that they're not saying things accurately. It's not Samsung versus Apple. It's only Samsung Electronics versus Apple. And then you understand Samsung Electronics is so much more, right? It has a lot more things connected to it. And Apple doesn't. Apple is basically just the Apple. What else? Anybody know how Apple is made? Like that whole concept of the art of war and Guanxi and the Chinese manufacturing is copied by Samsung Electronics, because the iPhone, anybody know where the iPhone is made or who makes a majority of the iPhone or major components of the iPhone?
In China?
China?
Okay, by who? Samsung. Samsung actually makes a large part of the iPhone. So, Samsung Electronics makes a large part of the components of the iPhone in the Apple company's main product. So when people are comparing Samsung Electronics to Apple and they're saying Apple is so much bigger, they say Apple is better. Well, Apple may look better, but it's got a lot more people saying it's so rich, they have to give money back. They have to give a lot of grants. They get a lot more targeted, for example, with tax issues. And they have to help the governments and things like that. And if Samsung says Samsung Electronics is smaller than Apple, then people may feel sorry for Samsung Electronics and give them maybe more help, even though Samsung as a group may be much more financially powerful. And even if Samsung as a company has a problem and Apple is doing better, by Apple doing well, since Samsung makes a large part of the Apple components, Samsung also does well. So that type of Guanxi, that type of networking is very, very important. So don't just make your paper for our class for me. I should be considered one of the least important people for that paper. Think of that Guanxi. Think of how you can network with other people. Think of even how the family connects with other people. Let's say Thomas, for example. Good morning, Thomas. Let's say Thomas wants to go to graduate school after he finishes this class. What should you be thinking of for your paper, Thomas? What type of Guanxi could you think of when you're writing this?
Well, I guess that it would be helpful to know someone in like higher position of the school that I want to get into.
Absolutely. And let's be even more specific. If you know the vice president of the university you want to apply to, yeah, maybe that helps. But most importantly, who would be the ideal person to get to know if you want to get a master's degree in a different university?
I do not know like the exact name. Like,
oh yeah, that's a problem. You should not just focus on getting a degree from a university name. You should be looking at the Guanxi, the people inside. Who is the specialist in what you want to be a specialist? And does that person have a lot of Guanxi? Does that person master the art of war? Does that professor that you want to study under have a position that can really help your future. And
Yeah,
so
I meant like that I do not know the name of the position in English.
I'm talking about know that professor, individual, that person. So if you know that person and you start reading that person's research and reference that person, that would be good for you. So have your paper referencing that person. And now that you already have the importance of the topic, the introduction, and you have a basic foundation with your literature review, you know some other experts. Now you start referencing some other professor for your graduate degree, and you're already prepared. Go survey them, contact them, interview them, take a photo of them to put in your paper or your book, whatever you're going to be writing about. And that person will automatically start to have a relationship with you. So when you get to know them even more, if you make this paper for them and co-author and publish with them, that person, that professor in your dream university for your master's program should be more interested in accepting you there than anybody else, and more valuable. You just apply directly to that person. They could sponsor you and maybe give you a scholarship for your graduate degree. Hopefully everybody understands that. Yasser, Thomas, Pia, Yekovir, all of you guys, if you are interested in that type of thing. So please pay attention to those things. Any questions about that before I come back and ask the class if somebody is going to be presenting your stuff? Could I get Jomo and Ulabek and Jekovir and Kumi, can you guys, since you're working on a paper understanding the influence of AI and tourism related to East Asia management, could you guys show a draft of your presentation, what you want to present and how you want to present it, and get everybody else, UNO and Thomas and Pia, get everybody else to try to give you comments on how you can improve using the art of war and using Guanxi, not just the academics, but the game of life. So, Jungho, Ulubek, Jekavir, can your group start showing some of these details now, please?
Okay, we expected to present on Friday, but
I know I screw things up.
yes,
Sue me, but try anyway in order to start practicing from experience.
Okay, can you give us access to share our screen?
You should all be able to share at any time.
Okay.
And then after they do that, I would like everybody else, UNO and Yasser, Thomas, Pia, I hope you guys can try to pretend to be specialists in Asian management, in the art of war, in Guanxi, in Chinese business, Korean business, Japanese business, and not just academics, of course academics, but give lots of comments for these people to consider. So Ulubek, what are you going to present? Maybe the background. Yakovir, are you going to present the intro? John Mamoon, you're going to do the survey plans. I don't know. Maybe all of you can present. You don't just have to rely on one person. I want all of you to get practice being leaders. And 5 minutes later, it's going to be UNO and Pia and Thomas and Yasser. So all of you guys get ready to not only be a specialist, but get feedback.
We have not divided our part. However, we'll talk about the, first of all, Friday's presentation. We'll talk about the motivations of choosing our topic, why we have chosen this topic, and we will start to talk.
Kyosunim, I have a question, Maniseo. I have a question, Professor.
Yes, yes.
We have, I don't know, 10, 15 people in this class. Why is everybody else being quiet? We're using our class activities to practice growing. Is it serious? Pia and Thomas and everybody else, you don't see anything that could improve already? If you want to be polite, offer some suggestions right from the very beginning. Nobody should feel bad. In China, in Korea, in Japan, Some people will feel bad if you identify a problem. But we can pretend this is a quiet, closed, private group, and let's pretend everybody's drunk, right? If you have a problem, right now, Jong Moon is our boss. If Pia, for example, has her hand up, she has a problem with the boss. Number one, that's super secret. Pia, how would you tell Jong Moon, your boss, that you have a problem with him? Don't talk about the presentation yet. Just talk about what is the methodology that you need to talk to your boss about any problem.
I would probably be very polite and say that it's no big deal, but that I had this impression and that it may be changed, but I guess that's wrong.
That's the German, that's the European way, very
Okay.
polite internationally. That's not what you're supposed to really do in East Asia. How about Thomas? You've been quiet so far today. What do you think you're supposed to do if you notice your boss is a dumb son of a bee or making a huge problem? Or if, for example, in the 1980s, planes always had the oldest pilot, which was the most powerful pilot, the most senior pilot, controlling everything, and usually two other pilots in the plane, and they still flew into buildings. They still flew into mountains because they wouldn't correct the older guy. I don't want you to do that. So I want you to say something. How would you do it?
Well, like the only thing that comes to my mind is that if I wouldn't be polite, I could maybe like try to kind of like take him down to be able to take his position in the future.
Oh, that's too Donald Trumpish. It might be good for your future, but I'm talking, what is the polite thing to do in Korea? What's the polite thing to do in China? What's the polite thing to do in Japan, in East Asia? What is the normal way to do it?
Act
Drink
drunk
with
and
them.
Okay, Pia's on the right track. How do you do that? Come on, anybody help? You or no? Help us out. What do you do if you have a problem at work?
In Korea,
Yes. Or Japan, same thing. Or China, same thing. Same answer.
maybe I will ask the supervisor to suggest my idea politely.
Oh my God. So you're going to go around your boss and talk to somebody higher, like the president or vice president? You're going to be fired, man. They're going to chop your head off. That's not loyal at all. You're supposed to stay under your boss, or maybe are you saying maybe you have a problem with the vice president, and so you talk to the supervisor and you get him to talk to him. Okay, maybe, but even then, how do you do that?
Just like go drink with him after work, and
Maybe
like
I should
talk to
have
him openly.
lot of Guanxi.
Thomas, right? Who was it? Was it Thomas you were just talking? Who was talking about the drinks?
Yeah, I said that like I would go drink with him, and then tell him, like
Right.
while we are drinking.
Right. Why are room salons, why are karaoke so powerful in East Asia? China, Japan, and Korea. There's room salons everywhere, especially around company buildings. Why? Because it's part of the corporate culture. You're not allowed to complain or say anything bad inside the company. You go outside the company, and it's not just during a lunch you talk about a problem, because if you are sober and you say your boss or your supervisor has a problem when you're sober, you're still insulting them and they will feel bad. So you use the idea of going to a room salon or karaoke where you're drinking lots of beer and alcohol, and then you can pretend to be drunk and then say, oh, I love you so much, but you're a dumbass because of this, and we should do this and this and this. And then next morning, you say, like, oh, I think I had a good time, but I don't remember anything. And then the boss will say the same thing. What? Last night? I don't know what you're talking about. But they will remember. Understand? So nobody loses face. And the good news is your boss probably pays for that. The older person or the corporate leader usually pays for the lower level person. So they're supposed to take care of you. That's why room salons or talanjujums or karaoke's are so popular around big companies. Is that clear, Pia and Thomas?
I have a question. Like,
Yeah.
does it, if I am, let's say, friends with my boss or like with the higher person that usually pays for everything, if we go out many times, does he or she still pay? Or is it like then like if it happens a lot, then you split?
UNO, would you like to answer that? If you have an older boss, but you're still friends with him for some reason, and you go out, who pays?
Usually maybe the boss pays much more than the low person usually.
So much so, some bosses can go bankrupt just trying to do their job, taking care of their staff. I used to travel. I've been to 128 different countries. The work sent me traveling all the time. And the first time I came back, that the job sent me to another country, I came back, and even though I got lots of contracts and lots of success on the job, I was shocked that many people in my company hated me. They thought I was terrible. I was dirt. And I was like, what the heck happened? I just did a good job. And then my secretary started saying, you didn't give us presents. I was like, what are you talking about? You're supposed to give a small little pen or a little flag or a fridge magnet or an envelope or a sticker or something. You're supposed to give everybody around you small gifts if you're on some type of special activity. If you go travel even inside Korea to somewhere interesting, when you come back, it's polite to take care of your younger brothers and sisters. So you go for an exciting, sexy vacation. When you come back, you're supposed to give your younger baby brother or your baby sister some toy, right? That's popular in Germany, Pia?
Yes, but we only do it for colleagues that we like.
Okay, what about your brother, your younger brother or sister, or your baby brother or sister? If you travel then, do you not bring them back a fridge magnet or a small little toy or
No, we do for our friends as well, just not colleagues in like the big picture.
That's because you are from a country where work is work and personal is personal and there's no mixing. In East Asia, you are a family. You have the patriarchal, what's it called? Fatherly management style. Patriarchal, I can't even say it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The father manages the company and all staff. So everybody working for the organization, and you in your department, if you have anybody under you and even people around you, above you, when you travel, you are supposed to bring back family type gifts. They don't have to be gold watches or Rolex or a new car. It can be small little 50-cent little gifts, as long as you show you're thinking of them. So that is a requirement. If you don't do it, you are considered greedy. You are considered kind of bad. So Guanxi goes everywhere. And you're supposed to give something to your secretary, could be even the office doorman, and of course your boss, things like that. And depending on the level they are in the company, the level of the gift. You don't give your secretary a gift that's kind of better than the top boss, at least in public. Is that clear? So we're back to that very first slide. If you can show us slide number 1 again. Develop Guanxi, help each other grow. Pretend that we are outside drunk at a karaoke. How can we make this slide even better?
Oh, actually, before, yeah, okay, Pia, you can comment.
Yeah, I already know that you want to defend yourself because this is an old presentation. But yeah, you could probably, because there's no way of contacting you, you could put in your LinkedIn or your email, but I'm sure you already know that.
And you are not Ulugh too, so
Yeah.
Actually in East Asia, if Ulugh is the boss of the group, then yes, usually you only have the boss's name. And maybe you don't have any of, if Jong-Moon made this presentation, he would still put his boss's name, like Ulugh here, and not put Jong-Moon's here. That is a normal thing to do. Or if you do put your name, you put your name in very small writing in a corner, so it's maybe harder to see. You promote your boss, even if your boss didn't work on any part of this. That's just the normal, loyal, obedient, normal East Asian thing to do, and your contact information. Good. Anything else? Any other comments on how you guys can develop even more? How do you promote your company? Let's say you guys are real live people and you're working for some company. Where does it show you're promoting your company?
Maybe like if we're working for some company, the name of the company should be on some part of the presentation.
Absolutely. I am going to hijack the presentation for a little bit. But again, you guys can see my screen here. This is a student paper. And the students are talking about L'Oreal Cosmetics developing marketing in Korea. And so they are promoting the L'Oreal brand, but they're also knowing that marketing is very important with YouTube and YouTube Analytics and Naver Analytics and Google Analytics. So they're promoting those logos also. Anybody want to give me, just summarize what I was just saying and why did you put these logos here? For regular academics in Canada or USA or in Europe, they might think this is foolish. Delete that, it's not professional. But we're not in Europe, we're not in Canada. We are in East Asia. So why did you do that? Is this good or is it bad? Ulrich, can you hear me? Do you think it's good? Since you're the big boss and you're writing a paper for L'Oreal Cosmetics, do you think it's good to put L'Oreal's logo on your paper?
Yes, I think if you want to help to that company, it would be better if you use the brand name.
Yes, for sure. What about this? Let me give you another hint. This paper is a paper about helping the company develop their Guanxi and develop marketing strategies. So we also have the logo of YouTube Analytics and Naver Analytics and Google Analytics. But it looks childish. In Canada, a Canadian professor would say, this is foolish, delete it. I'm going to take marks away from you for just playing a game. This is not a game. You're supposed to be, a very serious, boring professor. In Canada, they only want the individual result. They're not focused on Guanxi, at least the people that are not that successful, just focused on academia, not focused on business. So how could these logos help you? Jong-Moon, go ahead.
Maybe since this paper is talking about the Guanxi, like marketing strategy, maybe putting the logos might promote the Google and YouTube and Naver companies, so that like this cosmetic company might consider those companies to use searching engine for their marketing strategies. And
right. These companies, L'Oreal is the main company you're focused on working with. So their logo is at the top and you're promoting them the best. You're saying nobody is as good as them. But because you're talking about how this company can develop marketing, how this company can develop Guanxi and networking, the best answer is through Google Analytics and YouTube Analytics, except in Korea, because in Korea, Google is very rare and Naver is more popular. It's the local version of Google. So you must understand these and you promote these also. The last thing, one of the reasons why we're practicing today and getting ready for next week is this student paper got them not only, let me make this smaller so I can see it, it not only got them an internship, but it got them an actual job. They were hired. Why? What do you see here? Okay, but I can't give you too many points because you are too Korean. You're using just one-word answers. A lot of people, for example, in Canada, might not understand what you're talking about. Can you use a few more words to explain what you're talking about? Why is this reference important? Who is the reference to? And who's this paper for? This paper is written to get a job in L'Oreal. And they found research. This is just other research by other people, and they're referencing world experts. They're referencing here, but they also referenced the L'Oreal company, and they reference actually the director and the CEO of L'Oreal, and these are quotes from the executives of that company. They were considering putting a photo of the CEO of the company they wanted to work with in here, but the CEO said no. And so they used this paper to share not only their information, they are sharing not only lots of valuable files, but they presented this to, where is it here? To this top executive, interviewed the top executive, put quotes from the top executive in their paper. Understand that, L'Oreal? That's what you guys should be looking for. Hopefully next week or sometime before you are really focused on getting a job, you contact those executives you want to work with before it's the job application time, and you show them something of value to develop some sort of relationship. And just surveying them is one way to do it. So please note that. And by the way, these people, these students, they not only surveyed the L'Oreal, but SAP. SAP is, in Korea at least, the company that has the most company secrets in Korea. They control all of the management information systems for most of the big companies in Korea. So they're introducing the executive to the executive of this other super valuable company so that they know how to work together to help L'Oreal grow. And they're developing, the student is developing good relationships with both. And at the end, we go down, we have the references. It's showing the yellow stuff is showing this is a world-class, respected and reliable reference. More and more and more. The green is from one student, the white's from one student, the yellow's from a different student. What this is the students can also apply for a grant. These students applied for this Alfred Sloan Foundation grant, and they were able to, their grant was $16,000 that can be used to do their classwork. And this was all created basically in one weekend because they found this other reliable, respected journal during the week, and they just revised these details and they finished it basically in one weekend. And again, the most valuable part down here, this is showing all of the people that do research related to their topic. So anybody that's talking about supporting social media, Aquar, Altos, etc. All of these guys are the world experts talking about how social media can help with marketing. And these guys are talking about problems related to it. And so if we remember again, Aquar, Altos, etc., the students took this, which makes these writers look like they know everything about that research area. And they did the same thing here. Supporting it, Aquar, Althouse, etc. They just added this, added this, added this, added this, added this. So now it's their table. They're referencing the old paper, plus they're making it their own. They're making it modified for Korea, for L'Oreal. So hopefully you guys can continue to do that. Let's go back to Jong-Moon. You were talking about yours, and you were saying how you can develop your first slide. Small little details. A lot of people in North America, a lot of people in Europe wouldn't care at all. But in East Asia, if you promote your companies, good. If you promote your boss, good. You promote the contacts, good. You promote even suppliers that might relate to you, that's good. You're loyal, you're promoting them. And make sure no matter what you say, don't say anything publicly negative about anybody. Please continue with your presentation.
So this is not the presentation we will present for Friday, but we're just showing you like the topic of our presentation. So after talking about the motivations of the topic, we'll start showing the literature reviews and show the changes of our ideas about our topic, and we'll show the survey. But the problem is, since our group member had personal issues, we had not decided about how we will conduct the survey, because we have not decided the change of the topic, because on the last presentation, which is the literature review, we have talked about there can be changes on our topic after we found out that influence of AI in tourism industries can be a very different based on the countries and the industries. So we're trying to find some agreement about the survey. So I think we need to work on that.
Yes, I would say a lot of students, they, especially in Korea, maybe a little bit different. I think in Germany, Pia, you're from Germany, is that right? I think in Germany and Canada, from a very young age, your parents and community are influencing you to plan for your future career and plan how are you going to retire? What are you going to do for your future career? In Canada, I think ever since I am born with baby food, part of the baby food is only given to me if I tell them my 10-year, 20-year plan. So a lot of people are focused on retirement very, very early. But in Korea, they usually don't. And even then, even though Canadians are thinking about it from a young age, they still don't know what they want to do until they're like 300 years old. But they will start doing one thing, and then if it doesn't work out, they can cross that off the list and they can just go to the next one. So they've identified, maybe I want to do this or this or this or this or this, but don't wait. Start doing something proactively and then do something else. If this doesn't work out, then at least you know that doesn't work, and maybe you've learned something to help you do these other ones better. So don't delay, start developing anything. And again, it doesn't matter what anybody else is interested in, because you're still trying to develop things for your future. Anything here should be able to help you with your interest in your job, no matter what. So the surveying doesn't have to be just for your group. The surveying, you can use the introduction, perhaps the same, why it's important, and you can use the research of other experts that is very valuable for sure, but you can walk up to any executive you want. If you want to work for Samsung Accounting, you can. If your teammate Thomas wants to work for Hyundai Investment, he can, and he can have different questions. But ultimately, you have to bring it together, yes, but work in a way that helps you at the same time as it helps the group. Okay, go ahead. Please continue going. Anybody else? Can you guys help me? Shut up. You guys
Oh,
talk
wait,
more.
I have a question.
Yep.
Would you put importance on result of the survey or building the Guanxis by conducting a survey?
One of the most successful men I know, super rich. He may be a billionaire, I don't know, but he acts like he's a janitor sometimes. He, whenever I ask him, do you want a hamburger or do you want a hot dog? He says, why do I have to decide? Why can't I have both? So why do I have to decide you? Why can't you have both? Why can't you develop Guanxi at the same time as you develop the other things? Why does the whole world say you only have to do one? Think differently. Try to be creative. Any other questions? How about you present more and get your students to, I just did it. I got so excited about this. I talk and I answer, but I don't want to. I want you guys to talk and you guys to try answering. Pia, can you kick my butt the next time somebody else in class doesn't talk first or answer a question? Promise me. Pinky promise.
Bye. I have a question. For the background literature, it's probably not interesting if we just reuse our table that we already used. Yeah, for big ideas. How should we do it this time? Should we talk more about the content and less about the journals? Or because I think you said something that nobody's interested in who said what, just what they said. I don't know. Yeah, should I get someone else to answer? Okay, does anybody have an answer for me? I know I'm supposed to pick someone, but well, they're all my group except for Jungho and Jabuk here.
Well, can you please repeat your questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if we have to, or are you going to use the same way to present the background literature again? Like, this is the article that we found in journal X Epsilon, or are you going to talk more about the details of what you found and how you're going to use it for your reference work?
Since this is the big presentation, I mean, like, we're going to show like overall the ideas of our presentation. I was thinking that not about like big details, but just like I was just thinking that like showing the literature and progress of our changes on our topic. Yeah. So basically not details, but how these literatures changed our idea. We just thought that we were thinking that, yeah, we will just show that.
We don't seem to be on the right track.
No, okay, that's fine. It's good. I definitely make a heck of a lot of mistakes. So definitely don't always listen to me. But that was just one student. There are many brains here. Wisdom of crowds is research theory that says one person may be bright, and I think Jung Moon is very, very bright, but you get, 10 other people, and it's almost guaranteed those 10 other people can come up with better ideas than one person alone. So get other people to comment. UNO, Yakovir, Ulugbeck, why are you being quiet? You are not developing your abilities for East Asia. You should be developing your ideas. The other thing is, Jungmoon, you're very, very bright. Your answer's great, but it's whose answer? It's your answer. Why does anybody care? Sorry, I love you. Why does anybody care what you think? Who should you care about? Who is the presentation for? Yasser, who are you supposed to care about for this work?
I'm sorry, what?
Who are you supposed to care about when you develop this research project? Pia's question was, when you present your research and you're going to go survey some big executive, how do you present? So I'm asking you, when you go interview some executive from Samsung, who is most important?
The Samsung executives, I guess.
Right. What do they want to know? That's the only thing that's important. Is your presentation getting their attention, number one, teaching them something, number two, and making you look good only in their eyes, not your eyes, maybe number three? Is it helping them somehow? Number one, if they think you're a student, they're going to close the door on you. You need to start showing you're a researcher or you're a consultant, a very valuable one. How can you show you're a valuable researcher? How can you show you're a valuable consultant? Maybe start by saying, I know who you are. I know you're very valuable. I know that you studied at Harvard, for example. So I have these 15 Harvard Business Review stories that are $50 each. You probably already have them, but if you don't, here you can see them. And I've summarized what Harvard is saying. It doesn't even matter what you say. It doesn't matter what the research is saying. You've kissed his ass. You've made him look good. He is interested in you because you have the Guanxi with him. You've said, he is from Harvard or he's doing this work, and you have some work for him and you have something attractive for him. The contents are even less important. Does that make sense? Thomas, you don't look convinced. What would you say?
I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. And the other thing is, try to be as short as possible and get them to talk as much as possible. You're only going to talk if you make them very interested. How are you going to make them interested? You need to do research about them before you interact with them. Anybody that goes to a job interview without really researching that, not only the company, but the potential interview people don't plan to get the job. You should not only know a lot about the company and that person interviewing you, but how you can help them. What are the other persons around them doing, and how you can help them help that person, something. Like the idea, maybe he went to Harvard or he studied at Harvard. You can give Harvard Business Review articles that maybe he doesn't even have anymore. Or just start by teaching him something new. Anything else before we run out of time, or have anybody else start to present?
So we're basically doing this presentation on Friday for the executives. So it's like
yes, correct.
we're thinking about them when we're talking. Okay.
I am never important. Don't worry about the university. If you want a graduate degree in this university, then you can contact and focus on other professors in this university, maybe invite them to listen. But at the same time, you're probably looking at some company or professors. Maybe you can bring them in after you show them a lot of valuable stuff. If they do find out you're a student, you can bring them in as a speaker or participant in these classes. Right, so class finished 10 minutes ago. Sorry for talking too much. Ulugbeck, I think I hired you before, but you are fired because you let me talk too much. I think 5 classes ago, you were supposed to make me be quiet. Pia, you were supposed to make me be quiet today, but you allowed me to talk too much. You guys promote each other next class. And remember, the most important is that other person. What is the mutual benefit for some targeted person you're going for?